Welcome to Heartfire Obsession. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. The phone vibrated on the marble countertop at exactly 11:47 p.m. Olivia Hart didn't hear it at first. She was standing in the shower, letting scalding water wash away the exhaustion of another 16-hour day at the hospital. Steam filled the bathroom like a thick fog, and for those few precious minutes she allowed herself to forget about everything. The patients she'd lost, the surgeries that had gone wrong, the weight of saving lives that pressed down on her shoulders every single day. But when she stepped out, wrapped in a towel, her hair dripping onto the cold tile floor, she saw it. The phone screen glowed in the darkness of her bedroom, casting strange shadows on the walls. One new message, from an unknown number. Her heart didn't race. Not yet. Unknown numbers texted her all the time. Pharmacy notifications, appointment reminders, sometimes patients who'd somehow gotten her personal number and wanted to thank her. She picked up the phone casually, expecting nothing. What she saw made her blood turn to ice. The message contained a single photo. No words, no explanation. Just an image that shattered her entire world in the span of a heartbeat. It was her husband, Daniel Hart, the man she'd been married to for 7 years. The man who kissed her goodbye every morning and told her he loved her every night. In the photo, he was in a restaurant she recognized, Marcello's, the expensive Italian place downtown where they'd celebrated their anniversary just 3 months ago. But he wasn't alone. He was with a woman. A beautiful woman with long auburn hair, wearing a tight red dress that hugged every curve of her body. And Daniel's hand was on her thigh, his fingers pressed against the fabric in a way that spoke of intimacy, of familiarity, of something that had been going on for far longer than a single dinner. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that Olivia recognized the woman. Her name was Isabel Monroe, and she was Daniel's business partner, the woman he'd been working with for the past 2 years on his real estate ventures, the woman he'd always assured Olivia was just a colleague and nothing to worry about. Olivia's hands trembled as she stared at the screen. The towel slipped from her shoulders and pooled at her feet, but she didn't notice. Her entire body had gone numb. The bathroom suddenly felt too small, too hot, like the walls were closing in around her. Another message appeared. This time, there were words. Thought you should know what your husband does when you're busy saving lives. There are more photos. Many more. Want to see them? The truth she didn't want to believe. Olivia's first instinct was denial. This had to be a mistake. Some cruel prank. Or maybe the photo was taken out of context. Daniel would never do this to her. They had built a life together. They had weathered storms, his failed business ventures, her grueling medical residency, the miscarriage that had nearly torn them apart 3 years ago. They had survived all of it. They were solid. They were supposed to be unbreakable. But even as these thoughts raced through her mind, another part of her, a darker, more intuitive part, whispered the truth she'd been ignoring for months. The late nights. The sudden business trips to Miami, to Chicago, to San Francisco. The way Daniel had stopped touching her the way he used to, stopped looking at her with desire in his eyes. The distance that had grown between them like a chasm neither of them acknowledged. She'd blamed it on stress, on her exhausting hospital schedule, on the natural ebb and flow of marriage. But now, staring at this photo, all those rationalizations crumbled to dust. Her fingers moved almost on autopilot. She typed a response to the unknown number. "Who are you?" The reply came within seconds. "Someone who thinks you deserve better than a lying husband. Check your email. I sent you everything." Olivia's heart hammered in her chest as she opened her email app. There it was, a message from a throwaway account, subject line, "The truth about Daniel." She clicked it open. What she found inside made her legs give out. She sank onto the bed, phone clutched in shaking hands, as she scrolled through image after image, document after document. Evidence that painted a picture so clear, so undeniable, that even her desperate need to disbelieve couldn't stand against it. Photos of Daniel and Isabel at hotels, receipts from jewelry stores, a diamond bracelet purchased 3 weeks ago that Olivia had never received. Text message screenshots where Daniel called Isabel baby and the love of my life. Calendar entries showing their affair had been going on for over 18 months. 18 months, a year and a half of lies, of betrayal, of him coming home to her, kissing her, making love to her, all while carrying on a secret life with another woman. But the final document in the email was what truly broke her. It was a legal contract, a prenuptial agreement modification that Daniel had drafted 6 months ago with his attorney. In it, he was planning to divorce Olivia and protect his assets by claiming she'd been unfaithful. He'd been building a case against her, planting evidence, preparing to paint her as the villain so he could walk away with everything they'd built together. And he planned to marry Isabel immediately after the divorce was finalized. The confrontation Olivia didn't sleep that night. She couldn't. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Daniel's hand on Isabel's thigh. She saw him laughing in those photos, looking happier than he'd looked with her in years. She saw the future he'd planned without her, a future where she was nothing but an obstacle to overcome, a problem to solve, a woman to discard. By the time dawn broke, something inside Olivia had fundamentally changed. The woman who'd cried herself sick in the bathroom at 2 a.m. was gone. In her place was someone harder, colder, someone who understood that the life she'd been living was a lie, and the only way forward was through the truth, no matter how much it hurt. Daniel came home at 7:30 a.m., just like he always did after his morning gym sessions. He was whistling as he walked through the door, his gym bag slung over his shoulder, sweat staining his expensive athletic wear. He looked so normal, so casual, like he hadn't just spent the night destroying everything they'd built together. "Morning, babe," he called out, heading toward the kitchen. "You're up early. Rough shift?" Olivia was sitting at the dining table, still in her bathrobe, the phone placed carefully in front of her. She'd rehearsed this moment 100 times in her head, but now that it was here, she found she didn't need any rehearsed lines. The truth was simple enough. "How long have you been sleeping with Isabel?" she asked, her voice eerily calm. Daniel froze mid-step. The whistling stopped. For a single, suspended moment, he stood there in the doorway between the kitchen and dining room, his back to her, his entire body rigid with tension. Then he turned around slowly. His face was carefully composed, but Olivia could see the calculation behind his eyes. He was deciding how to play this. "Deny? Admit? Deflect? What are you talking about?" he asked, his voice measured. "Olivia, have you been sleeping? You look exhausted. Maybe you don't," she cut him off, her voice sharp as a scalpel. "Don't you dare try to gaslight me right now. I have photos, Daniel. I have receipts. I have text messages. I have everything." She watched the color drain from his face, watched his jaw tighten, watched him realize that his carefully constructed lie had just collapsed around him. "Who sent you that?" he demanded, his tone shifting from concerned husband to something uglier. "Someone's been spying on me? Invading my privacy?" Olivia laughed, a bitter, hollow sound that didn't sound like her at all. "Your privacy? You've been having an affair for 18 months and you're worried about your privacy?" "It's not what you think," Daniel said quickly, taking a step toward her. "Isabel and it's complicated. It just happened. I didn't mean for it to. You bought her a diamond bracelet," Olivia interrupted, her voice deadly quiet. "You took her to our anniversary restaurant. You told her she was the love of your life. Which part of that just happened?" Daniel's face twisted with anger. "You want to know the truth, Olivia? Fine. Yes, I've been with Isabel. Yes, I have feelings for her. And you want to know why? Because you're never here. You're always at that goddamn hospital, always choosing your patients over me, always too tired or too stressed or too busy to actually be a wife." The words hit like physical blows, but Olivia didn't flinch. She'd spent all night preparing for this, for the inevitable moment when he'd try to make this her fault. "So that's your justification?" she asked. "I work too much, so you cheat? I save lives, so you destroy our marriage?" "I didn't destroy anything that wasn't already broken," Daniel shouted. We've been dying for years, Olivia. You just couldn't see it because you were too busy playing hero at the hospital. Then why didn't you just leave? Olivia demanded, standing up now, her hands pressed flat against the table. Why the affair? Why the lies? Why draft a prenup modification claiming I was unfaithful so you could take everything in a divorce? That stopped him cold. His eyes widened. How did you? I know everything, Daniel, Olivia said, her voice trembling now with rage she could no longer contain. I know about your plans. I know you've been building a case against me. I know you were going to paint me as the villain so you could walk away clean and marry your mistress. Daniel's expression hardened. The mask of the apologetic, caught, husband fell away completely, revealing something uglier beneath. So what? He said coldly. What are you going to do about it, Olivia? You going to divorce me? Good luck with that. I've been planning this for months. My lawyer says I have an airtight case. By the time we're done, you'll be lucky to walk away with anything. The cruelty in his voice, the complete absence of remorse, was what finally broke through Olivia's shock. This wasn't the man she'd married. Or maybe it was, and she'd just been too blind to see it. Get out, she said quietly. What? Get out of my house. Now. Daniel laughed, a harsh, mocking sound. Your house? This is my house, Olivia. I bought it. My name is on the deed. You want me to leave? You leave. He grabbed his gym bag and headed toward the stairs, clearly intending to shower and change like this conversation had been nothing more than a minor inconvenience. But as he passed her, Olivia spoke again, her voice so cold it made him pause. You're going to regret this, Daniel. He looked back at her, one eyebrow raised. Is that a threat? No, Olivia said, meeting his eyes with a gaze that held no warmth, no love, nothing but ice-cold determination. It's a promise. The woman in the shadows after Daniel left for work, which Olivia now knew meant spending the day with Isabel, she sat alone in the house that suddenly felt like a stranger's home. Every piece of furniture, every photo on the wall, every memory embedded in these rooms felt tainted now. Poisoned by lies. She should have been crying, should have been breaking down, but she wasn't. The grief would come later, she knew. Right now, there was only clarity, only purpose. Her phone buzzed. Another message from the unknown number. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. But you needed to know. He doesn't deserve you. Olivia stared at the message for a long moment before typing a response. Who are you? Why did you send me this? This time, the answer took longer to come. When it finally arrived, it changed everything. My name is Rachel Kim. I was Daniel's girlfriend before you. He did the same thing to me, cheated, lied, planned to take everything in a divorce. I lost my business, my home, everything, because I trusted him. I've been tracking him for years, waiting for the right moment to make sure he doesn't do this to anyone else. When I saw you were next, I couldn't stay silent. Olivia's hands tightened around the phone. Before me, Daniel had told her he'd only had one serious relationship before they met, and it had ended amicably. He'd never mentioned anyone named Rachel Kim. Another message appeared. I have more than just photos of his affair. I have financial records. Evidence of fraud in his business deals. Information that could destroy him completely. If you want revenge, Olivia, I can help you. But you have to be willing to go all the way. Are you? Olivia stared at the message for a long, silent moment. In her mind, she saw Daniel's face when he'd mocked her, when he'd told her she'd be lucky to walk away with anything, when he'd blamed her for his own betrayal. She thought about the 18 months of lies, the diamond bracelet he'd bought for another woman, the prenup modification designed to paint her as the villain, the future he'd planned without her. She thought about the woman she'd been this morning, the woman who believed in her marriage, who trusted her husband, who thought love could conquer anything. That woman was gone. In her place was someone new, someone who understood that sometimes love wasn't enough. Sometimes trust was just another word for foolishness. Sometimes the only way to get justice was to take it yourself. Olivia's fingers moved across the screen, typing 3 words that would set everything in motion. I'm in. When do we start? The response came immediately. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. I'll send you an address. Come alone. And Olivia? Don't tell anyone about this. Not your friends, not your family, no one. If Daniel finds out we're working together, everything we're planning will fall apart. Can you keep this secret? Olivia looked around the empty house, the home she'd shared with a stranger, the life she'd built on a foundation of lies. She thought about everything she'd sacrificed for this marriage, all the nights she'd come home exhausted and still tried to be a good wife, all the times she'd ignored her instincts because she wanted to believe in them. No more. I can keep it, she typed back. See you tomorrow. As she set the phone down, Olivia caught her reflection in the mirror across the room. The woman staring back at her looked different somehow. Harder. More determined. Ready for whatever came next. Daniel Hart thought he'd won. He thought he'd successfully betrayed her, planned his exit strategy, and would walk away clean with his mistress and his money. He had no idea that the real game was just beginning. And this time, Olivia was going to be the one holding all the cards. Heartbreak and revenge, the meeting the address Rachel sent led Olivia to the industrial district on the outskirts of the city, a place she'd never been before, where warehouses loomed like sleeping giants and streetlights flickered with dying bulbs. It was exactly 8 p.m. when Olivia pulled her car into the empty parking lot of what appeared to be an abandoned office building. Her heart hammered in her chest as she killed the engine. This was crazy. She was a doctor, a healer, someone who took an oath to do no harm. What was she doing meeting a stranger in an abandoned building to plot revenge against her husband? But then she remembered Daniel's face when he'd laughed at her, the cruelty in his voice when he'd blamed her for his betrayal, the prenup modification designed to destroy her financially and emotionally. She got out of the car. The building's front door was unlocked. Inside, the reception area was gutted, empty desk frames, exposed wiring, the skeleton of what had once been a thriving business. Olivia's footsteps echoed on the concrete floor as she moved deeper into the darkness. "Hello?" She called out, her voice sounding small and uncertain. "Up here." A woman's voice coming from the second floor. Olivia climbed the stairs, her hand trailing along the cold metal railing. At the top, she found a single office with light spilling from beneath the door. She pushed it open. Inside, the room was transformed. Unlike the rest of the building, this space was fully functional. Computers set up on folding tables, monitors displaying financial charts and documents, photographs pinned to a corkboard that covered an entire wall. It looked like something out of a crime drama, a detective's investigation room. And standing in the center of it all was Rachel Kim. She was stunning, petite, with sharp features and eyes that held an intensity that made Olivia instinctively take a step back. Rachel wore all black, her long dark hair pulled into a severe ponytail, and when she smiled, it didn't reach her eyes. "Dr. Olivia Hart," Rachel said, extending her hand. "I've been waiting to meet you for a long time." Olivia shook her hand cautiously. "How long have you been tracking Daniel?" 3 years, Rachel replied, turning back to the wall of photographs. "Ever since he destroyed my life, I made it my mission to document everything he does, every lie he tells, every woman he manipulates, every fraudulent business deal he makes. I knew eventually he'd slip up badly enough that I could take him down. When he married you, I thought maybe he'd changed. But then I saw him with Isabel, and I knew he was doing it all over again." Olivia moved closer to the wall, her eyes scanning the photographs. There were dozens of them, Daniel with different women over the years, receipts from expensive gifts, screenshots of incriminating text messages. But what caught her attention was a section labeled Financial Fraud. "What is this?" she asked, pointing to a document showing bank transfers. Rachel's smile turned predatory. "This is how we destroy him. Daniel's real estate company? It's built on fraud. He's been taking money from investors, promising returns he can never deliver, then using new investor money to pay off old investors. It's a classic Ponzi scheme, and it's been going on for 5 years. Olivia felt dizzy. 5 years? But we've been married for 7. That means... He was running this scheme before he married you, Rachel confirmed. In fact, I suspect he married you specifically because you're a doctor with a stable income and good credit. You were his backup plan, his safety net in case everything collapsed. And now that he's got Isabel, whose family is worth millions, by the way, he doesn't need you anymore. The words hit Olivia like physical blows. Her marriage hadn't just been a lie, it had been a calculated business decision. She'd been used from the very beginning. How do we prove all this? Olivia asked, her voice hollow. Rachel pulled out a thick folder. I've been collecting evidence for years, but I could never act on it because I was emotionally involved. No one would take me seriously, I just looked like a bitter ex-girlfriend. But you? You're his wife. You have legal access to his financial records. You can get into places I can't. Together, we can build a case that will not only get him arrested for fraud, but will also ensure you get everything in the divorce. Olivia took the folder, her hands trembling. Inside were detailed instructions, which bank accounts to access, which emails to search for, which business associates to contact. It was a roadmap to destroying Daniel's entire life. There's something else, Rachel said quietly, pulling out another document. Isabel Monroe? She's not innocent in this. She knows about the fraud. In fact, she's been helping him, using her family connections to bring in high net worth investors who don't ask too many questions. She's just as guilty as he is. A cold satisfaction settled over Olivia. Good, they both deserve to pay. What do you get out of this? Olivia asked suddenly, looking up at Rachel. Why help me? Rachel's expression softened slightly, the first genuine emotion Olivia had seen from her. Because I know what it feels like to be where you are right now. To realize the person you loved was just using you. To lose everything while he walks away unscathed. Daniel destroyed me, and I've spent 3 years rebuilding my life. But I'll never fully heal until I know he can't do this to anyone else. Helping you isn't just about revenge, Olivia. It's about justice. Olivia nodded slowly. Okay, I'm in. Tell me what to do. The investigation begins over the next 2 weeks. Olivia lived a double life. During the day, she was Dr. Olivia Hart, respected trauma surgeon, saving lives, making rounds, pretending everything was normal. At night, she became someone else entirely. Someone who broke into her husband's home office, photographed documents, hacked into email accounts, and slowly, methodically built a case that would bring Daniel's empire crashing down. Daniel, meanwhile, seemed completely oblivious. He stayed out later and later, barely bothering to hide his affair anymore. Sometimes he didn't come home at all, and when he did, he avoided Olivia entirely. He'd moved into the guest bedroom, claiming he needed space. Olivia suspected he was already planning his exit strategy, waiting for his lawyer to finalize the paperwork that would paint her as the unfaithful spouse. Let him think he was winning. It made her work easier. One night, while Daniel was out with Isabel, Olivia found what she'd been looking for. A locked drawer in his desk that contained backup hard drives. Her hands shook as she inserted the first drive into her laptop, but when she saw what was on it, she knew they had him. Bank statements showing transfers of millions of dollars. Emails where Daniel explicitly discussed the Ponzi scheme with his business partners. Contracts with forged signatures. Evidence of money laundering through offshore accounts. It was everything Rachel said it would be, and more. Olivia photographed every document, her heart racing. This was enough to send Daniel to prison for decades. Enough to ensure he lost everything, his business, his reputation, his freedom. But as she worked, she found something else. Something that made her blood run cold. An email from 2 years ago sent to Daniel's lawyer. The subject line read, "Plan for divorce. Olivia Hart." With trembling fingers, Olivia opened it. Inside was a detailed strategy for destroying her credibility. Daniel had instructed his lawyer to hire a private investigator to follow Olivia, to look for any evidence of infidelity or malpractice. He'd planned to claim she was having an affair with a colleague at the hospital. He'd even discussed planting evidence in her car, text messages, photos, anything that would make her look guilty. The email was dated 6 months after their 5th anniversary, back when Olivia still thought they were happy. Back when she'd been planning a surprise trip to Paris for them. Back when she'd loved him with every fiber of her being. He'd been planning to destroy her even then. Olivia closed her laptop and sat in the darkness of Daniel's office, tears streaming down her face for the first time since this all began. Not tears of sadness, but of rage, of betrayal so deep it had carved out a hollow space in her chest where love used to live. Her phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. Found something big. Need to meet. Same place. Tomorrow night. The twist when Olivia arrived at the abandoned building the next night, she found Rachel pacing frantically, her usual composure shattered. "What's wrong?" Olivia asked, alarmed. Rachel thrust her laptop toward her. "This. I was digging deeper into Isabel's background, and I found something that changes everything." On the screen was a birth certificate. Olivia frowned, reading it carefully. "I don't understand. Who is Elena Martinez?" "That's Isabel's real name," Rachel said, her voice shaking. "She's been using a fake identity for the past 5 years. And look at this." She clicked to another document. Before she was Isabel Monroe, she was convicted of fraud in Nevada. She served 2 years in prison for running an investment scam that defrauded elderly victims out of their retirement savings. Olivia's mind reeled. "So she's a professional con artist?" "Worse," Rachel said grimly. "I think she targeted Daniel specifically. Look at the timeline. She appeared in his life right after he started the Ponzi scheme. What if she didn't just happen to meet him? What if she's been playing him this whole time?" Olivia thought about the diamond bracelet, the expensive dinners, the promises of love. But why? If she's a con artist, what's her endgame? Rachel pulled up another document. A life insurance policy. This. Daniel took out a $5 million policy 6 months ago, with Isabel as the sole beneficiary. And according to this medical report I found in his files, Daniel has severe coronary artery disease. His doctor told him he needs immediate surgery, or he could have a massive heart attack at any time. The implications hit Olivia like a freight train. She's waiting for him to die, or planning to help it along, Rachel said darkly. Think about it. She gets him to divorce you, marry her, then waits for his bad heart to give out. Maybe she even encourages him to skip his medication, to stress himself out, to work too hard. And when he dies, conveniently of natural causes, she walks away with millions. Olivia felt sick. We have to warn him. Why? Rachel's voice was sharp. He doesn't deserve our help, Olivia. He destroyed both our lives. Why should we save him from a woman who's exactly as manipulative as he is? Because I'm a doctor, Olivia said firmly. I don't get to decide who deserves to live and who doesn't. And as much as I hate Daniel right now, I'm not going to let someone murder him. Rachel stared at her for a long moment, then sighed. You're a better person than I am. Fine. But if we're going to warn him, we need to be smart about it. If Isabel finds out we know, she could disappear. Or worse, she could accelerate her plans. Then, we don't warn him directly, Olivia said, her mind racing. We gather all the evidence about Isabel's true identity, her criminal past, everything. We present it to him in a way that makes him think he discovered it himself. Make him believe he's the one who figured out she's dangerous. Rachel smiled slowly. You're learning. Okay, let's do it. But Olivia? Even if we save Daniel from Isabel, we're still taking him down for the fraud. You understand that, right? Olivia nodded. I understand. He needs to face justice for what he's done, but I won't let him be murdered. That's not justice. It's just another crime. The trap over the next 3 days, Olivia and Rachel orchestrated an elaborate plan. They created a fake email account using the name of one of Daniel's business associates. Then sent him a message claiming they'd discovered concerning information about Isabel Monroe and thought he should see it immediately. Attached to the email were all the documents they'd uncovered, the birth certificate showing her real name, the criminal record, the suspiciously timed life insurance policy. Everything presented in a way that looked like legitimate due diligence from a concerned colleague. Olivia watched from her laptop at home as Daniel opened the email. She'd installed spyware on his computer weeks ago, and now she could see everything he did in real time. She watched his cursor move across the screen, watched him click on document after document, watched his entire world crumble for the second time in a month. 10 minutes later, her phone rang. It was Daniel. Olivia. His voice was shaking. "Can you come home? I need to talk to you. It's important." This was it, the moment everything would either come together or fall apart. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, she said calmly. When she arrived, she found Daniel sitting at the kitchen table, his head in his hands. He looked terrible, pale, sweating, his expensive suit rumpled. The documents about Isabel were spread across the table in front of him. "She's been lying to me," he said without looking up. "About everything. Her name, her past, who she is. It's all fake." Olivia sat down across from him, keeping her expression carefully neutral. "I saw the email you forwarded to me. Who sent you this?" "Tom Richardson," Daniel said, naming one of his business partners. "He was doing background checks on everyone involved in our new development deal, and he found all of this." He gestured weakly at the papers. "Olivia, I think she's trying to kill me." "That's a serious accusation," Olivia said carefully. "What makes you think that?" Daniel pulled out another document, his medical records. "My heart. The doctors have been telling me for months I need surgery, but I kept putting it off. Isabel always encouraged me to wait, said the surgery was too risky, that I should try to manage it with lifestyle changes. But now I'm wondering if she wanted me to keep waiting because..." He couldn't finish the sentence. Olivia felt a strange mixture of emotions. Part of her felt vindicated. Daniel was finally experiencing the terror of betrayal, of realizing someone he trusted was using him. But another part of her, the part that had taken an oath to heal, felt genuine concern for his safety. "Daniel," she said quietly, "you need that surgery. Soon. Your cardiac enzymes are elevated. Your ECG shows dangerous arrhythmias. If you don't get treatment, you could die." He looked up at her, and for the first time in months, she saw genuine fear in his eyes. "Will you help me? I know I don't deserve it after everything I've done, but you're the only person I can trust right now."
Everyone else in my life might be working with her. Might be part of whatever she's planning. But you're a doctor. You save people. It's what you do. Olivia was silent for a long moment. This was the man who'd
betrayed her, who'd planned to destroy her financially and emotionally, who'd made her feel worthless and blamed her for his own infidelity. She could walk away right now. Let him face Isabel alone. Let him reap what he'd sown. But she couldn't. No matter how much he'd hurt her, she couldn't let him die. "I'll help you," she said finally. "But Daniel, when this is over, when you're safe and healthy, we're getting divorced. And you're going to give me everything I'm entitled to without a fight. No lies, no fake evidence, no trying to paint me as the villain. You're going to sign whatever paperwork my lawyer draws up, and you're going to walk away quietly. Do you understand?" Daniel nodded, relief flooding his features. "Yes, whatever you want. I'll sign anything. Just please help me." "And there's something else," Olivia continued, her voice hardening. "Your business, the Ponzi scheme you've been running for 5 years, that ends too. You're going to voluntarily shut it down, return whatever money you can to the investors, and cooperate fully with any investigations. Because if you don't, I have evidence that will send you to prison for decades." The color drained from Daniel's face. "How do you—" "I know everything," Olivia said coldly. "Every fraudulent deal, every forged signature, every offshore account. I have copies of all of it. So here's the deal. I save your life, you save what's left of your soul by making this right. Otherwise, I go to the FBI tomorrow, and you can take your chances with them and Isabel." Daniel stared at her with a mixture of fear and grudging respect. "When did you become so ruthless?" "When you betrayed me," Olivia replied. "Now, do we have a deal?" He nodded slowly. "We have a deal." The confrontation the next morning, Olivia scheduled Daniel's cardiac surgery for 3 days later. enough time to prepare, but soon enough that Isabel wouldn't have time to interfere. She also contacted a lawyer and had divorce papers drawn up with terms heavily in her favor. Daniel signed them without argument. But before the surgery, there was one more thing they had to do: confront Isabel. Daniel invited her to dinner at Marcello's, the same restaurant where their affair had begun, where the first photographs had been taken. Olivia insisted on being there, hidden at a corner table where she could watch and record everything. Rachel was there too, at another table, her phone ready to call the police if things went wrong. Isabel arrived wearing the red dress from the photograph, looking stunning and confident. She kissed Daniel on the cheek and sat down across from him, completely unaware that her carefully constructed con was about to implode. "You look stressed," she said, reaching across the table to take his hand. "Is everything okay with the new development?" "Actually, I need to talk to you about something," Daniel said, pulling his hand away. "About who you really are." Isabel's smile never wavered, but Olivia saw the flash of fear in her eyes. "What do you mean?" Daniel pulled out the documents, the birth certificate, the criminal record, everything. He laid them on the table between them like a hand of cards. "Elena Martinez," he said quietly. "Convicted fraud. 2 years in prison. When were you planning to tell me?" For a moment, Elena, sat frozen. Then, slowly, her entire demeanor changed. The sweet, loving girlfriend vanished, replaced by something cold and calculating. "Well," she said, leaning back in her chair, "I guess the jig is up. How'd you find out?" "Does it matter?" Daniel asked. Elena shrugged. "Not really. So, what happens now? You going to turn me in? Because I should warn you, Daniel, I have evidence of my own. Evidence of your Ponzi scheme. Continue 10,019 evidence that could send you to prison for a very long time. If I go down, you're coming with me. I'm already shutting down the business," Daniel said. "I'm cooperating with investigators." "So your leverage just disappeared." Elena's eyes narrowed. "You're bluffing." "I'm dying," Daniel said flatly. "My heart is failing. I need emergency surgery. And I know you were planning to wait until after we got married, until after I died, to collect on that life insurance policy you convinced me to take out. But I'm not going to let that happen. The policy is being canceled tomorrow, and you're getting nothing." Elena's mask of composure finally cracked. "You bastard," she hissed. "Do you have any idea how long I've been working on this? How much time I've invested in making you fall for me? You owe me." "I owe you nothing," Daniel said. "You're a con artist who targeted a con artist. We're the same, Elena. We're both terrible people who use others for our own gain. The only difference is, I'm trying to make things right before I die. You're just angry you got caught." Elena stood abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "This isn't over, Daniel. You think you can just walk away from me? You think?" She stopped mid-sentence as 2 police officers entered the restaurant, walking directly toward their table. "Elena Martinez?" one of the officers said. "You're under arrest for identity fraud, violation of parole, and conspiracy to commit insurance fraud." As the officers handcuffed her, Elena's eyes swept the restaurant and landed on Olivia, who'd stood up from her corner table. Understanding dawned on Elena's face. "You," she breathed, "the wife. You did this." Olivia met her gaze steadily. "I saved his life. You tried to take it. There's a difference." As the police led Elena away, still screaming threats and obscenities, Daniel turned to look at Olivia. There was something in his expression. Gratitude, yes, but also shame. Deep, genuine shame. "Thank you," he said quietly. Olivia nodded. "You're welcome. Now let's get you ready for that surgery." The ultimate payback, the surgery, Daniel's cardiac surgery, was scheduled for a Thursday morning at 6 a.m. Olivia wasn't his surgeon. That would have been a conflict of interest. But she scrubbed in as an observer, watching from the gallery as the team worked to repair his damaged heart. It was a 7-hour procedure, complicated by years of untreated disease. Several times, his heart stopped on the table, requiring emergency intervention. Each time, Olivia watched the monitors with professional detachment, wondering what she would feel if he died right now. Relief? Grief? Nothing at all? But he didn't die. The surgery was successful. Daniel was moved to the ICU, where he would spend the next week recovering. Olivia visited him once on the third day post-op. He was awake but groggy, connected to more tubes and monitors than she could count. When he saw her, he tried to smile. "Hey," he said weakly. "You came." "I told you I'd help you," Olivia replied, standing at the foot of his bed. "And I keep my promises. Unlike some people." Daniel had the grace to look ashamed. "I know, Olivia, I've had a lot of time to think while I've been lying here. About everything I've done, everyone I've hurt. And I want you to know. I'm sorry. I know it doesn't change anything, but I am genuinely sorry." "For which part?" Olivia asked coolly. "For cheating? For lying? For planning to destroy me in a divorce? For building our entire marriage on fraud? You're going to have to be more specific." "For all of it," Daniel said, his voice breaking. "I was a terrible husband, a terrible person. I used you, and I blamed you for my own failures, and I never deserved you in the first place. If I could take it all back, I would." Olivia studied him for a long moment. He looked small in that hospital bed, diminished somehow. Not the confident, charismatic man she'd fallen in love with, but something more human, more broken. "I believe you're sorry," she said finally. "I even believe you'd take it back if you could. But Daniel, that doesn't fix what you broke. It doesn't undo the damage. Sorry is just a word. It's what you do next that matters." "I signed the divorce papers," Daniel said, "and I've been working with the FBI. Turning over all my records, naming names, doing everything I can to make restitution to the people I defrauded. It won't fix everything, but it's a start." Olivia nodded. "Good. Then maybe someday you'll be able to look at yourself in the mirror without hating what you see." She turned to leave, but Daniel called out to her. "Olivia, will you ever be able to forgive me?" She paused in the doorway, not looking back. "I don't know. Maybe. But it won't be today, and it won't be tomorrow, and it might not be ever. You don't get to put a timeline on someone else's healing, Daniel. That's not how this works." And with that, she walked out of his hospital room and out of his life. The aftermath the next few months were a whirlwind of legal proceedings, media coverage, and personal transformation. Daniel's Ponzi scheme made national news when the FBI arrested him and several of his business partners. The story had everything journalists loved: fraud, betrayal, a con artist mistress with a criminal past, and a wronged wife who'd helped bring it all to light. Olivia hated the attention. She declined interview requests, kept her head down at the hospital, and tried to focus on her work. But people recognized her everywhere she went. Some saw her as a hero, a woman who'd stood up to a corrupt system. Others saw her as a vindictive ex-wife who'd destroyed her husband out of spite. She tried not to care what strangers thought. The divorce was finalized quickly. Thanks to the prenup she'd forced Daniel to sign and the evidence of his fraud, Olivia walked away with a substantial settlement, enough to never have to worry about money again, enough to start over completely if she wanted to. Daniel pleaded guilty to fraud charges and was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. His business empire collapsed. His reputation was destroyed. Everything he'd built through lies and manipulation crumbled to dust. Isabel, or Elena, as Olivia still thought of her, was also convicted. She received 8 years for identity fraud, parole violation, and conspiracy. She'd be out in 5 with good behavior, but by then, she'd be just another ex-con with a record. No longer the beautiful, sophisticated woman who could charm her way into wealthy men's lives. Rachel Kim watched it all unfold with fierce satisfaction. She'd finally gotten the justice she'd been seeking for 3 years. On the day Daniel's guilty verdict was announced, she sent Olivia a single text: "We did it." Olivia looked at that message for a long time before responding. "We did. Thank you for everything. I couldn't have done this without you. What will you do now?" Rachel asked. Olivia thought about that question. What would she do now? She had money, freedom, a successful career, and the rest of her life ahead of her. She could travel, could pursue new interests, could even think about dating again someday, though the idea of trusting someone that deeply again felt impossible right now. I'm going to live, she typed back. Really live. No more settling for less than I deserve. No more ignoring my instincts. No more being afraid to ask for what I want. Good, Rachel replied. You deserve happiness, Olivia. Real happiness, not the fake kind people like Daniel sell. They met for coffee one last time at a small cafe far from the industrial district where they'd plotted their revenge. Rachel looked different, lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. I'm moving, Rachel said. Getting out of this city, starting fresh somewhere new. There's nothing keeping me here anymore. Where will you go? Olivia asked. Not sure yet. Somewhere warm, I think. Somewhere I can forget about all of this and just be. Rachel smiled. What about you? Are you going to stay at the hospital? Olivia nodded. For now. But I'm thinking about switching specialties, maybe something less intense than trauma surgery. Maybe something that lets me have a life outside the hospital for once. That sounds healthy, Rachel said approvingly. You know, Olivia, when I first contacted you, I thought I was just helping you get revenge. But watching you these past few months, you've been incredible. You stayed true to yourself even when it would have been easier to just let Daniel die. You fought for justice instead of just vengeance. That takes real strength. Olivia felt tears prick her eyes. I learned from watching you. You could have destroyed Daniel years ago, but you waited until you could do it the right way. That's not revenge. That's perseverance. They hugged goodbye outside the cafe, two women who'd been brought together by betrayal and bonded through their shared quest for justice. Stay in touch? Rachel asked. Always, Olivia promised. 6 months later, Olivia was in surgery when her phone buzzed with an unexpected email. She didn't see it until her shift ended, when she finally collapsed in the doctor's lounge with a cup of coffee and checked her messages. The email was from an address she didn't recognize, but the subject line made her heart skip a beat. You should see this. Inside was a link to a news article. Olivia clicked it, her hands trembling slightly. The headline read, Convicted fraudster Daniel Hart found dead in prison. Olivia's breath caught. She read the article quickly, her medical training automatically noting the details. Daniel had died of a heart attack, not surprising given his condition and the stress of prison life. The article mentioned that he'd been compliant with his medication regimen and had been scheduled for a follow-up procedure to address ongoing cardiac issues. It appeared to be natural causes. No foul play suspected. But as Olivia scrolled to the bottom of the article, she found a comment from an anonymous source claiming to be a fellow inmate. The comment alleged that Daniel had been selling information to prosecutors about other white-collar criminals in exchange for a reduced sentence, that he'd made enemies, that maybe his death wasn't as natural as it appeared. The comment ended with, "Karma's a bitch." Olivia closed her phone and sat in silence for a long time. She tried to feel something. Grief, relief, vindication, anything. But mostly she just felt tired. Her phone buzzed again. Another email, this time from Rachel. I saw the news. Are you okay? Olivia thought about that question. Was she okay? Her ex-husband was dead. The man who'd betrayed her, who'd tried to destroy her, who'd ultimately been destroyed by his own greed and lies. I think so, she typed back. It's strange. I don't feel happy about it. But I don't feel sad either. Just empty. Like closing the final chapter of a book I never wanted to read in the first place. That's normal, Rachel replied. He was still a part of your life, even if it was a painful part. It's okay to feel complicated things. Did you have anything to do with it? Olivia asked suddenly, the question appearing on her screen before she could second-guess it. There was a long pause before Rachel responded. No, I didn't. I wanted to. I'll admit that. I fantasized about it more times than I can count. But I didn't. Whatever happened to Daniel in that prison, it wasn't my doing. Sometimes karma really does handle things on its own. Olivia believed her. And in a strange way, she was glad. If Rachel had been responsible for Daniel's death, it would have meant they'd become the very thing they'd been fighting against. People who took justice into their own hands, who decided others didn't deserve to live. "Thank you for being honest," Olivia wrote back. "Always," Rachel replied. "Now go live your life, Olivia. Don't let his death haunt you the way his life did. You're free now. Really, truly free." 1 year later, Olivia stood in her new apartment, looking out the window at the city skyline. It was smaller than the house she'd shared with Daniel, but it was hers, bought with her own money, decorated to her own taste, filled with nothing but her own memories. She'd switched to reconstructive surgery, finding deep satisfaction in helping accident victims and burn patients rebuild their lives. It was still challenging work, but it felt more hopeful somehow. More about creating than about desperately trying to save. She'd also started dating again, cautiously. Nothing serious yet, she wasn't ready for that. But she'd had coffee with a few people, dinner with one or two, and slowly rediscovered what it felt like to trust again. Not blindly, the way she trusted Daniel, but carefully, with boundaries and self-respect intact. Rachel had moved to California and was running a nonprofit helping victims of financial fraud navigate the legal system. They still texted every few weeks, checking in, sharing victories and setbacks. The friendship born from betrayal had evolved into something genuine and lasting. As Olivia watched the sun set over the city, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Her heart jumped. Was it happening again? Another betrayal? Another revelation? But when she opened it, she found only a simple message. "Dr. Hart, this is Tom Richardson. I know we haven't spoken since everything happened with Daniel, but I wanted you to know that we've finally distributed the remaining funds from the settlement to all the investors he defrauded. It's not everything they lost, but it's something, and it wouldn't have happened without you. Thank you for having the courage to do what was right, even when it cost you so much." Olivia read the message 3 times, feeling something warm bloom in her chest. Not pride, exactly. Not vindication. Just peace. The knowledge that out of all the pain and betrayal and heartbreak, something good had come. People had gotten at least some of their money back. Justice, however imperfect, had been served. She typed back a simple reply. "Thank you for letting me know. Take care." Then she set her phone down and returned to the window, watching as the city transformed from day to night as lights flickered on in thousands of windows, each one representing a life, a story, a person trying their best to navigate the complicated mess of being human. Olivia thought about the woman she'd been a year ago, the woman who'd received that first devastating photo, who'd had her entire world shattered in an instant. That woman had been so lost, so broken, so certain she'd never feel whole again. And now she was healing. Not healed, that might take years, or maybe it would never happen completely. But healing. Growing stronger, learning to trust herself again. Learning that she was enough, all on her own, without needing someone else to validate her worth. The doorbell rang. Olivia smiled, recognizing the familiar pattern. 3 quick rings, a pause, then 2 more. Her sister, who'd flown in from Seattle for the weekend to celebrate Olivia's birthday. "Coming," Olivia called, turning away from the window. As she walked to the door, she caught her reflection in the hallway mirror. The woman staring back at her looked different from the one who'd stood in a bathroom a year ago, holding a phone with a devastating photo on it. This woman's eyes were clearer, her shoulders were straighter. Her smile, when it came, was genuine. This woman had been tested by betrayal and had emerged not bitter, but wiser. Not broken, but rebuilt. Not destroyed, but transformed. Olivia opened the door to embrace her sister, and as she did, she felt the last piece of ice around her heart finally melt away. Daniel Hart had tried to destroy her. But in the end, he'd only made her stronger. And that was the ultimate payback. Not his death, not his imprisonment, not even the public humiliation of his downfall. The ultimate payback was that Olivia had survived. She'd rebuilt. She'd chosen to be better than the pain inflicted on her. She'd won by refusing to let betrayal turn her into a betrayer, by refusing to let hurt turn her into someone who hurt others, by choosing every single day to be someone who healed instead of harmed. As she closed the door behind her sister and heard the sound of laughter fill her new home, Olivia Hart smiled. This was what victory looked like. Not revenge, not destruction, but a life reclaimed, a heart that beat strong and true, and a future full of possibilities.